passenger princess.
Just the way you like it. Nothing wrong with that.
Just the way. Johnny, what are we doing?
We're going out digging holes.
Why?
We'll be bit of soil sampling for Farmer Gareth.
We are.
So
Johnny's now Mr. Lime Man.
Aye, you'd have seen me so before in something else, but...
We have.
Aye.
So we can't hide that mug of yours.
No point in trying to.
But you're now Mr. Lime Man. We're going to go do a bit of sampling. I'm trusting you with the buggy. Light her up. Try not to kill me.
Nah, we'll be fine. Sure, we're only going up the road.
We could have walked, but...
No point in that. we're too lazy for that. I'm going to let you get out there and take that gate. I'll reverse back and we'll get her on in.
Passenger princess is going to get the gate. But, so, I've been chatting to Farmer Gareth in the past about, you know, the need for lime, etc. And we are starting to look at this process. So, Johnny is with Kilwaughter Lime now, and he is doing a bit of sampling today, and we might do a wee bit of testing, seeing what happens when we get our samples in, maybe try some fields, maybe do like half of a field and bits and pieces like that. So that's the plan. So I was basically saying there, you're now Mr. Kilwaughter Lime, and G-Lime's a massive part of what you're doing.
Yep.
And I know a little bit about G-Lime historically.
I wonder how you know about that.
We all have a past. And we are going to sample some fields.
Yes.
And we're going to see, slurry has been put on, you can see it in its lines. And we're going to do some experimentation. Farmer Gareth's up for that, we're up for that. We think it's very important about lime. Is it really though?
Well, the misconception is that lime isn't it's a luxury, not a necessity. But if you don't put lime down, if you're for talk's sake, your soil pH is sitting at a 5.5, what you're doing is you're wasting a quarter of the fertiliser you're putting on every year.
Yeah.
Now, roughly at the minute, don't hold me to the price, but I think the fertiliser is about £360 a tonne at the minute. So if you're wasting a quarter of that, you're wasting £80.
Yeah.
£80 an acre.
Yeah.
And whenever you're putting the lime down, and especially with the G-Lime, the way that you can go out and spread it yourself with your fertiliser spreader, you're only spending about 30 quid an acre.
I was taught years ago when I did a bit of this that no matter what you do, it starts at the grassroots, and that's soil. Whether you're arable, milking cows, milking cows, what's the most valuable crop? It still comes from the soil.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean, if we're in a grass-based system here, doesn't matter what we're on. So granulated lime helps the farmer in that he can apply lime via his fertiliser source.
Yep.
He's not having to bring in and tramp about the big
you're
bulk
not bringing
lime.
in big machines that are going around and compacting your soil.
But there's still a place for that though.
Everything has its place. Like, I'm not telling you to turn around and say, no, don't be putting ground lime down. There's going to be certain scenarios where ground lime and G-Lime work hand in hand. It comes down to what your soil conditions like, and that's why we're out here today, right here to sample, to see where we need to be. Like, I'm not necessarily going to turn around here and say, right, Farmer Gareth, you need to be putting down G-Lime whenever he might not need to.
Yeah.
There might be some fields we go into that are sitting good, maybe doesn't need it.
This farm, and certainly since we've been about and chatting to Farmer Gareth, I have always been saying, look, you know, reseed as much as you're prepared to do, and he has been doing, and we've tried different variations. We've tried ploughing, we've tried disking in, burning, disking, sowing in, but every single time we've went and we've put lime on because I believe in lime.
Yeah.
And you know, the thing about those reseeds, some of those reseeds that are now down 2 to 3 years are probably at the stage now where they need topped up.
Yeah.
And that's where G-Lime is a brilliant, beautiful product, in my opinion.
Well, like, if you look at the scales, like we're pretty vocal about how we represent the liming. We do graphs, we give you sort of figures, and we give you graphics that you can see what does what.
Yeah.
So one of our favourite graphs that we use is ground lime compared to G-Lime. Ground lime, when you put it on year 1 to year 5 compared to G-Lime. Now, ground lime, when you put it on, takes about 18 months before it'll get up to its optimum pH by the time it breaks down. Whereas if you put G-Lime on at the same time, G-Lime within 6 weeks is at its full pH. Now with G-Lime, it will only stay up there for 9 months before it drops back down again, so you get the full season out of it. But it doesn't drop back down to square one, it drops down a bit.
Yeah.
So the next year you go and you spread the G-Lime again, but less than what you would have previously done, because you're now at a stable sort of peak with the pH.
Other things that we were, again, this is that you're pulling back the memory banks on me here now,
Well, it's about
which
time.
is absolutely brilliant. Parts of Northern Ireland, and in particular County Antrim, can be very high magnesium index, so that's where G-Lime could be now very valuable, in that it's a very much a calcium based. And I have seen in the past many times, if you can get, like, you can lock up ground if you've too much of anything on, within reason, and that's one of the things we cannot do in County Antrim. And I know you're looking to sell this product absolutely everywhere, but one of the things we cannot do is add more magnesium to that.
Well, we're out of a fully calcium-based quarry. We have the technical specifications to go with our G-Lime, and there isn't even trace elements of magnesium in it. So you'll find a lot of magnesium around Northern Ireland, because back there was grants years ago that everybody put down ground lime, and it was all mag lime at that stage. It was done every 5 years, mag lime. And when you look at sort of the dairy herds and what you're putting out in the ground nowadays, there's a lot of magnesium in your cow licks, there's a lot of magnesium in feeds, there's magnesium in a lot of things that comes out from your slurry, and it'll come out from other aspects of what you're doing with the fields as well. Magnesium can end up landlocked on your ground, where you're stopping your nutrients from getting into where, well, you're blocking other nutrients from getting what they need and what the grass needs. And that's why we need to look at it from not just the NPK. We need to be looking at magnesium, we need to be looking at calcium, we need to be looking at sulfur, we need to be looking at different elements throughout the periodic table.
But I think there's a
big fancy word. Listen to me.
You watch The Big Bang Theory by any chance?
Nah, sure, it's a dinner time thing.
NP and K is massive, right?
Yes.
And the cost of it. And I think as we move forward in agriculture, we need the ground absorbing and using as much of these nutrients pretty much as fast as possible as well. And that does come down to the pH. We know about the lock-ups. We know you're saying there about 25% of your fertiliser, but I think if you reduce that pH ever so slightly again, you could be right up to, like, and the bad boy that we all talk about, phosphorus. You could be up as far as length of 50% lockout in phosphorus. Now this is old school, and this, all these figures may have changed, but I can't imagine.
The figures, they haven't changed really. I think the only real figure that's changed over recent times is that I think the consensus there is that, oh, your pH, if you're sitting at about a 5.8 to a 6, you're good. But the more it's been looked into, really you need to be sitting at about 6.3 to 6.5. That's where you're getting your most.
And there are reasons for that, and there are lots of different things. One of the genuine realities about your bulk lime, and again, I'm not dissing it personally, because in my opinion, all lime is good. If you're getting lime on, and I'm glad you're agreeing to that. But I am aware of how valuable G-Lime can be, especially to guys that aren't wanting to plough as much, that's going in a min-till system. They need to they can get it on. But when your lime cart pulls up outside and he's conveying it into his spreader, and he's going out round, the bit that's white in the next field and the bit that's white everywhere else is actually the best bit at doing the work.
So we have available on the Kilwaughter Lime website, you go on, order your soil test kits. They come out, they have three bags into them for 3 separate fields. You fill them out, send it back, free postage back, and they'll send you an analysed result. And what comes with that as well, we get the results too. So whenever we get the results, we'll then do a liming plan for you and send it back to you. And it's not going to be all pushed towards G-Lime, because, like, let's be honest, there's so many some fields out there that people haven't looked at in a decade. Even longer. And there's going to be some that are probably bordering the 4.8, so we bet less.
What you're saying is we can have a lot of moss ground too. What you're saying is we can draw it out of your quarry anyway.
Well, no.
Win-win for Kilwaughter.
You'll get the G-Lime from us, but any G-Lime that's sold will be going through. So I will obviously deal with G-Lime, that's what I do in Kilwaughter, but it doesn't go through me. We have a direct network of different merchants that will sell it directly to you.
Oh, why, yes.
So you don't come to me, unfortunately, because I'm a one-man band. There's a lot of G-Lime customers out there, and for me to keep on top of them all is a bit of a nightmare. But depending on where you're based, you'll be able to get it from your closest merchant. certainly get in contact. I'll tell you who has it. Thompson's would be a big customer for us that would sell all of our G-Lime for us in Northern Ireland.
That's Thompson's Feeds.
Thompson's Feeds.
Mill.
Yes. So I'm sure
they've
I'm sure boys have a rep that they know of that they can speak to, and then there is other different suppliers and that we deal with too. So if anybody if you want to find out more about G-Lime, or if you want to find out where you can get it, get in contact, go onto our website, whatever way you want to do it.
Absolutely.
We'll be able to get you sorted with it. That's not an issue.
I think honestly, if there's one thing I can say, and I know the whole GRASSMEN, what we do and have a bit of fun, if there's one thing I can say from the bottom of my heart, is that if dairy farmers, beef men, sheep men, any man that's farming the land was to look a wee bit more at their lime and get it under control, because it is only in Ireland, and up here in Northern Ireland, we get a lot of rain, and the rain keeps leaching. It keeps pushing the nutrients down. It's what it does when you get a particularly wet periods of time. You imagine that your water is going down to the water table. It's taking the nutrients
Take them straight out of it.
And it's the benefits of reseeding. I mean, you're not selling grass seed, but the benefits of reseeding and doing that far outweigh firing the mill and all the stuff we do in the back end. Sorry, Thompson's. But I'm being honest.
Yeah.
And I think they would agree with that too.
Well, that's why they sell the G-Lime, and obviously they do their fertiliser too. They see the benefit of it. And farms nowadays are under quite a lot of pressure when it comes to costs. Yeah. And every margin that every percentage they can get out of the farm and return profit is what they'll go for, and be looking into something just as simple as the soil. Every farm has plenty of fields, every farm has soil.
And one big change that I have noticed in probably 20 years since leaving university is there is a lot more organic matter going to the soil. There's a lot more use of slurry. There's a lot more going down, and as more and more and more organic matter is getting fed into our soils, it's even more imperative that we get on top of the pH, because that's going to be encouraging it to go one way. You know, but the benefit about G-Lime is it doesn't matter whether you have a Viking wagtail or you have the latest and greatest contractor that comes in and just blasts out all your ground. You can do it yourself in your own time, or have someone else do it for you.
No matter what you're using, on our website we do have all of the calculators on there to tell you what speed settings you need to have your fertiliser spreader on for spreading lime, and depending on what kilograms you have to put per acre, it'll work that out for you as well. So
that modern fertiliser sower, the way that works, I find that quite, you know, it used to be I just looked at the cow in the next field and tried to get a straight line. It's not like anymore, right? So you're starting to dig.
Right, let's lift the shovel and the spade and we'll have at it.
I like this, you don't want me to drive or anything? Like, or you just want to walk and dig?
We'll just stand there and dig.
Stand there and dig.
We'll take it back to the old school ways.
D&D.
Might maybe telling you it's not.
Better than I actually give it credit for.
Sure, it's not actually too bad. I thought it was going to be worse.
Well, mind you,
we don't need a bigger spade. Sure, you're only going down a couple of inches. No point in getting two.
Fancy welly boots and all.
No point in getting two.
These sides that open up and all. Hey.
Just a shame about how big the legs are in them. I'll tell you, I'll not be able to get them off.
I'm exactly the same. Look, I can't wear ordinary wellies. Look at them. I'm fully stretched.
Well, these are fully stretched too, and I'll struggle to get them off when I'm finished. Alright, I'll fill the hole up again after myself. Right, so I'm just going to do the W pattern the whole way down this.
Is that the official way?
Well, it depends on the shape of the field. So whenever you receive your soil sampling kit, it shows you two maps that you can use. I'm just going traditional W because, well, it's easy. This field here, the shape of it will work nicely. So I'll take samples as we can. Sure, I'll save the jam later on.
Oh, I've been there today. Did legs this morning.
Oh, here, I'm sure your legs will be sore tomorrow. This might actually strengthen them up a bit.
Look at that, boys.
That ground's no bad.
Mr. Healthy.
Yeah.
Great to see a wee worm in there, boys. And not an old black one.
Yeah, they look fairly big too. Look.
But a nice land, that, hey.
This is the one that Farmer Gareth thought wouldn't have been the best. So, getting on not too bad so far.
This one wouldn't have had any love now in my time.
Yeah, he would say this is the
next door had love, next door got a reseed.
Don't worry, we've not much more to go. We'll get another 3 or 4 here, and that'll do for this field. Get the thing mixed up and away. Right, well, I'm happy enough. We've got enough.
Happy with your bucket. Get her well mixed now.
That's the next thing.
That's the boy. Some boy. Take the stones back out of her. I'll hurry the worms get.
Oh, he's definitely in a couple of different pieces now.
I'll keep going though.
I know he will. But it's good to see worms in the ground.
It is. Very healthy.
You want to see that. Because if they're thriving in there, what they're really doing is they're giving more cavities for roots to grow down into.
He's telling us all big stories here about how worms work.
There's our sample bag.
That's our sample.
That's the bucket with the rest of what we have.
Yes.
But it gives us a good option to get it all mixed up and round. It gives you a good variation for this entire field. So that's one, and then we'll give the ground back to the ground. Well, not there, it's painless. Only just a few more to do and we'll be laughing. But again, it gives you an idea of what you need to do. It's nothing overly complicated. If anything, it gives you a wee bit of a dander around the field. Lets you see what's going on. Gives you an idea from what condition it's in. Or you can... I
would say pleasantly surprised now.
Yeah, we can.
We'll see you soon when we get the results then.
Well, I'd like to think next week, Gareth, if you hear about it.
Oh, as quick as that. That's good.
Well,
right.
We'll get the analysis back because now's the time.
Yeah, it's now the time you'd like to see this happening.
Now is the time of year we'd like to see the lime out. Get the lime out before the fertiliser goes out.
Yeah.
And then make the most out of this year's crop.
Yeah.
So hopefully Farmer Gareth will have a nice luscious crop.
That'll do my walking for today. Cheerio.
Seeing me and Donkey out in field taking soil samples. Obviously it's quite a monotonous job, but it needs to be done. And now we're here today with Hannah from Lancrop, and also got Farmer Gareth with us today as well, because he needs to know his results to know what's going on with the field. So what we're going to do is, obviously we did 6 fields whenever I was out sampling with Gareth. So now we're going to look at what lime is needed, as well as what other nutrients he's quite high on, what he's low on, touch a bit on the pH, and what sort of we would recommend he goes forward with over the next couple of years just to keep on top of the soil. So I think we'll just start with
Give me the bad news.
We'll start with the bad. We'll start with it's not that bad, Gareth. There obviously is a couple of fields there with a bit of an area for concern, but overall your pH isn't sitting too bad. Now we'll start off here just at the big field there. So the first field we did, we're looking there at the moment where we have a heavy clay ground. So it comes down to ground type, to what nutrients it will hold in, to what it will release, to what it needs. So that heavy clay on the big top field was coming in at an actual pH of 6.2. Our target is 6.3. With the analysis that we have, so we run everything down through and we break it down into a 5-year plan. It also tells you on there what your effective fertiliser rate is, and with that particular field you're setting an effective fertiliser rate of 100%. Now liming, because it's a heavy clay, we're looking at liming every other year from now on. Because it's sitting at 6.2, this year we're recommending you put 180 kilograms per acre of G-lime on for 2024. 2025 you don't have to lime, again because of heavy clay. 2026 you're going to move down to 120 kilograms per acre of G-lime. 2027 nothing again, and 120 kilograms per acre again in 2028. So Hannah, I'm going to let you tear on ahead there and talk about the big top field. Okay. So,
well, here at Lancrop we have a bit of a traffic light system with our results. Okay. So anything that's in red is a cause for concern, and anything that's green is in the maintenance level. And then we've got yellow for being on the higher side. We'll ignore this cation exchange capacity part for now, but we can come back to that later. We'll go on to the phosphorus and the potassium, so the PK, okay. And you can see here they're in the red. So that's a cause for an application of fertiliser. So right. I would advise you to put phosphorus and potassium in your fertiliser. Okay. And the reason for that is because phosphate needs to be in the soil for general energy, also for rooting. So without that being in the more maintenance level, you might lose out a little bit on yield. Right, okay. So it's important to apply that. and it's important to apply that now in the spring as we're getting towards the plants actually needing to use it. Very difficult for plants to get phosphate out of the ground at the moment because it's so cold and wet. So that's why we're looking to apply some fresh phosphate for use now, but also to try and build that index up.
Okay.
So we're working in indices, and we want to be in an index of 2. And I see here where so I think is it 1.4. So we need to build that up.
Okay.
Potassium is also a little bit low in this field, and potassium's role within the plant is to move anions around the plant, and also to give it some turgor, so to help it to stand. So we use more potassium in a cutting situation, less in a grazing. And that's because of how far the plant grows before you graze it or cut it.
And that particular field there, you'd be using it for cutting anyway, because that'll be you'll use that as you'll get the silage boys in for that.
So it's really important that you get some potassium on there.
All right. Okay.
What we would say is you've got your starting point in terms of the soil index, but are you putting any manures on there? Because that's the first question.
Yeah. There will be 3,000 gallons an acre of slurry will be going onto that.
Okay.
All the land will get that now in the springtime, before any application of fertiliser.
Right. Okay. Brilliant. So you're looking to balance that
off your slurry.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's really good, because there's no point throwing loads at it if you're going to put a load of manure on as well.
Yeah.
But I would say it's worth noting that if your indices are sort of lower around the farm, you're cycling that with your animals.
Okay.
So if your soil is showing a low phosphate and potassium level, then the manure will also be low in P&K.
All right, fair enough.
So that's why you need to bring fertiliser in, because you need to bring it into the system.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So what you were saying there really is whatever the cows are eating is obviously going to come back out again in
Low.
the slurry.
Absolutely.
So the more you can have in the crop, the better it's going to be for the cow that's actually digesting it, and then when you're spreading your slurry again after collecting it for the year, that'll put a bit more back in the ground.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
It does its cycles. So,
Yeah.
So you use soil results to tell you what's in the manure that's going out as well. I mean, we do analyse manure, and it's a good idea to do that, because you can see exactly what's in there, and you can actually calculate how many nutrients go on.
Yeah, it's a bit like soil sampling. Like over the years, we're all guilty farmers. We don't bother soil sampling. Now we're all being forced or made through the government to soil sample, which is not the worst, because after seeing these results today, actually my pHs is a lot better than I actually thought they would be. And like for me, just to went out flat rate, sowing G-lime to everything, there's some of the fields don't actually need. So farmers think this soil sampling's a gimmick, but it's not really. Like us, it all starts off with your grass.
We need to put it that way, that we're not telling you to go out and put G-lime on every field.
Yeah,
because not every field needs it.
Yeah.
But what we're saying is liming has its place.
Yeah, but until you would have had those results today, I would have just been going out and saying, well, all the land needs G-lime, so we'll just do the whole farm. So actually, the few pound that it is to soil sample, you're going to save it, because you're not going to have to sow lime on some of the fields. Now, there's some of the fields needs quite a wee bit,
I would always say that soil analysis is always going to save you money.
Yeah.
Because you identify the deficiencies as well as the sufficiencies.
Yeah.
So if you've got deficiency, then you know to apply nutrient to make the plants grow better. But if you have got sufficient nutrient in the ground, then you know that you don't have to apply it. So it's going to save you money either way.
Yeah.
I would say.
Like farmers are working on that type of margin nowadays.
Very much so. It's getting more and more like that.
A wee thing that going onto the Kilwaughter's website, ordering out your soil sampling kit. I think it's £25 for your kit. That'll get you 3 fields. To spend the £25 to realise, like you would have, as you said there, Gareth, you would have just went out and spread lime in all those fields.
Yes, yeah.
To spend that £25, you probably saved yourself a couple of hundred.
Yeah, and it's the same as I know I'm guilty of, and I would say to other farmers as too, is sowing fertiliser. You just pick one brand of fertiliser, or maybe 2, and you just sow everything blanket. As in, this needs, just get them all the same. But a lot of fields actually, you're wasting fertiliser, as in not maybe putting on the right stuff.
And you see that in this plan as well. There's some of them there that they're telling you that your effective fertiliser rate's not at 100%. So if you're going out there, there's one in particular we're going to look at that's 75%. So if he's wasting a quart of fertiliser, and you're spending 350, 400 quid, there's nearly £100 wasted for every. Why would you want to go out and buy a ton bag, lift out 200 kilograms of it and fire it into the bin before you go spread it? Because that's effectively what you're doing. Like,
and when you're saying you're lost in that fertiliser, is that fertiliser that's just being washed out of the ground or not actually just being neutralised and used by the pH not being right?
It depends which nutrient it is. With phosphate, we'll take phosphate because that's the sort of the hardest one. It could be sort of form of precipitation out of the soil solution. It's not going to be available to the plants, and it's going to actually adhere to some of the nutrients that are in the ground. So effectively, it's locked up.
Oh, right.
So it could be that it would be released back again, but it could be decades before that happens, if at all. Okay. So yes, it is a fair loss.
That's a lock up.
Out of the cycle. Yeah. So it is really important to keep that pH in that level. If you got down to say a 5 pH, you'd lose probably 60 or 65% of your phosphate. So it starts to get more important the lower the pH.
And if you're at the 5, then you're wasting 6 to 65% of your fertiliser. So that's.
And another question, as in, I said to you the last day you were there, I have a few fields that was reseeded and they're quite open as the root formation.
Yeah.
Like, what's that down to? It could be the reseeding, but is there anything that's locked up here in the land?
Yeah, so I mean, the first thing I would look at when I saw this high magnesium level is I would ask you, is it causing you a problem? But I think you've just intimated that it has caused a problem. Yeah. So what magnesium does within the soil when it's out of balance or out of ratio to calcium is it makes the soil really tight. And that's because magnesium has and I'm going to have to be technical for a second, has a higher hydrative diameter than, say, calcium would have. So it can swell further, but then when the water disperses, it shrinks again. So this constant swelling and then shrinking is what makes the soil tight.
But like, so if you're having issues in that big field behind us here where there's a lot of surface water lying, will magnesium be causing that? Is that why your water's not draining away? You could have all the drainage you want in the day, but it's not getting away because of the high magnesium level. Would that be right?
Absolutely. I mean, but you've got a double whammy in a way because you've got a higher clay content as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So both of those that would cause that, definitely. But the good thing is that if you use calcium, it has this flocculation effect. So it opens the soil up. It helps the structure of the soil.
So I think the way I'm understanding it, because the technical side of things there throws me every time, but the way I'm describing it is it sort of gives you more ridges and that for the roots to grow in through and to let nutrients penetrate down in and water to get through as well.
Yeah, it helps the soil beds to form into aggregates. So it makes it more crumbly, more friable.
Oh, right, okay,
which is what rather than being very compact and tight. Okay. So that's what it does. Yeah, that's what the calcium does. It flocculates. It's this term which indicates that it opens it up. And then, of course, because you've got more airspace around those aggregates, you've got more room for the roots to move, but you've also got room for the water to filter through.
If I'm putting on urea, would it be better just with something with a bit of P&K in it?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Rather than there's a big lot of farmers at this time of year, it's urea, we go out, we sow urea. That's just the way it has always been. Yeah. But, it's just because it's wetter conditions, urea will work better in wetter conditions. But, if we're sowing that, it's costlier to start with. And if it's not doing our ground right, we need to go with a different type of fertiliser, and it's as easy for me buying that type or that type. It's all money, Yeah. So that's why I'm saying to you, what is for me, it's not going to be for every farmer because I have to test their land, but I'm going to need P&K,
Absolutely. Yeah. And if you've been for quite a few years just used nitrogen, then that's probably why these are started to drop because your offtake, the PK that you're taking off, is
hasn't
actually
been replaced.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's a diet. Yeah. Like anything else, it's really a diet.
Yeah. Okay.
The other thing I'd also say, and it's backed up here in the results, is what do you do about sulphur? Do you apply sulphur in your fertiliser?
No. The odd time, again, be down to when years when fertiliser was expensive. If the sulphur was making it dear, no, we'll not bother. Probably we should be doing it. All the time. Because the land needs it.
Definitely, because you see here. I mean, I I don't think I've seen a soil result with a high sulphur reading.
Yeah.
It just doesn't happen anymore.
I think I'm noticing there in a lot of yours as well, Gareth, that you seem to be lacking a bit in sodium. Is that something for concern as well? Is that something we need to be looking at?
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I would, the question surrounding sodium, because it's not actually a plant essential nutrient, but it is an animal essential nutrient. Are your cows, I mean, it's palatability of the grass that probably you would see.
Yeah.
But also if you've got any issues like staggers,
No,
milk fevers.
wouldn't have the problem, but then again, that's all been counteracted with minerals and stuff that we're putting into the cows.
Right, okay.
If you were to go, just let them go naturally.
Yeah.
I know years ago, staggers, milk fever things, my father would always complain our farm was a problem for it, so you always had to feed against that. But again, that's probably coming from the soil, and if we can sort that at soil level, well, at least you wouldn't need as much minerals maybe at the other end for their diet,
Yeah.
Right, Anna, I want you to explain to me what benefits G-lime has and what benefits ground lime has, because everything has its place. So I want you just to run through here what the difference is between them and how it can benefit, and
Okay.
let Gareth know and let the watchers know what the story is with it, really.
Okay, so if we had a set of results here that were much lower in pH than we've got here, then we would look at using a bulk lime. So we would want to do that in the autumn. So for two reasons: so that it's got all of winter with all the winter rainfall that we have to dissolve it, to break it down, to actually get it into the soil. But also importantly, if we use bulk lime, bulk calcium onto this soil, then we've talked earlier about the displacement of different nutrients. What would happen is you would displace some of these other cations, so potassium, magnesium, and ammonium. They would go into the soil solution and then potentially be taken up into the plants. And then if you've then got a high potassium content of your grass and then you graze, then you might have problems with staggers or with milk fever.
Okay.
So we don't ever bulk lime and then graze.
Okay.
So if you've got a set of results like this, where your pH is there or thereabouts, and you're wanting to use it in the spring, the granular lime is much more reactive because it's ground finer. So it's going to get dissolve in the soil quicker and then into the plant quicker.
Hinting that there is that you'd want to be putting on the bulk in autumn and then use the G-lime later on in the spring.
Absolutely.
Just to be sure, I think.
Yeah, but that's really only for very low pHs.
That's really for low pHs, where because really the lime that you use in the granular lime is the same product, same calcium carbonate as you have in bulk lime. It's just more finely ground, and then it's just made more convenient. So you're using essentially the same sort of product, but you're using that reactivity for the here and now, and so that's why you're replacing it every year or every other year, because you're using that reactivity to your benefit. But the longevity would come from the bulk lime, if that makes sense. Yeah. So you're right in putting the program in as you have, and it will maintain it. But if you wanted to correct it, then the bulk lime probably would be the better way to do that in the autumn.
Okay. So Jonny, you may get me a load of lime and
I'll get you a pilot, don't you worry, and I'm sure we'll be able to talk Donkey into getting it spread.
We'll get him to do something, get him out to do something.
I'll get him out to do a turn. No doubt he'll end up getting Craig or somebody to be doing that, but we'll figure that one out. But like you're on board with this already, because you can see how long I've already saved money here, because I was going to put lime in every field that's going in, and I was going to put different fertilisers on in every field, whereas now I know I need to be doing certain P and K, and you need to get some sulphur into it as well. And then you'll be able to get the most out of your return. You'll get the most out of your grass, you get the better return out of it. The animals will be healthier, they'll be happier, and you'll have a better crop, you'll have better soil, you'll hopefully have to reseed less. And you'll know exactly what way to go about it every year. There's no guesswork.
Yeah.
You have the facts and figures in front of you, you know what way you need to progress, because this is a 5-year plan that we have for you with the liming. Yeah. So I think everything there in black and white, and I always think it's only a soil sample, but the soil sample can trigger a lot of things on from there. Like it seems such a simple thing, but can make a big difference. And as I said before, farmers are working that tight at margins nowadays. Milk prices aren't they're not as good as what they were, but they're not as bad as what they were as well. Yeah. But by having this and knowing how to spend your money and to get the most out of it, can make you a pound or two extra at the end of the year as well.
Well, listen, to lost 20% of your fertiliser on an average. I'm not saying everybody's going to do that, but like 20%. If you're going to tell me 3 or 4% different, but like 20% adds into a lot of money per year, and probably you're not getting the yield as well.
Like that's you, like 20%.
Yeah.
There's going to be boys out there that aren't anywhere near this.
All right. Well, fair enough. Yeah.
There's going to be boys out there that maybe haven't soil sampled in 20 odd years. They haven't reseeded. They're just putting down whatever they want to and not looking into it, thinking, it'll be all right. Cows and animals are still happy enough. The crop looks okay. But it's getting into the deeper part of how the crop is actually doing. Yeah. It might look all right. It doesn't necessarily be right.
I'm seeing that with the open patches in the field and reseeds. Like as I said to you, I've said a few years now, like my reseeds aren't coming back the way I would like, and the magnesium is obviously locking the ground up, you know, making it too hard, you know. Which great. Not that for me.